We're on.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's Board of Adjustment meeting and Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for June the 4th, 2015. Our first order of business will be our Board of Adjustment agenda, and the first order of business on that will be our public hearing for 807 Banner Avenue. Mr. Hampton, you want to bring us up to speed on that?
Sure.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
First item we have is a variance request, VAR 35. It's a setback variance for the property located at Lot 8 in Block 6, Gasto C. Polster Addition, the College Heights Addition to the City of Warrenton, Missouri, located at 807 Banner Avenue. Property is zoned R2, medium density, single family residential. The variance request is to allow part of a proposed fence to be within the required 27-foot setback area from the existing street curb or gutter. On May the 7th, 2015, a request for variance approval was filed with the Planning and Zoning Commission. County BIT requested the variance that would allow part of the proposed fence to be within the required 27-foot setback area from the existing curb or gutter at her property. I'd like to make part of the public hearing record the municipal code by reference, the public hearing notice, and my planning and zoning report. I'd also like to add that per section 405.330 variances, the Board of Adjustment shall make findings that the requirements of subsection A1 have been met by the applicant for the variance. And that would be A1 is written application for the variances submitted demonstrating special conditions and circumstances exist which are particular to the land, structure, or building involved and which are not applicable to other land, structures, or buildings in the same district. Literal interpretation of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this chapter. The special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. Granting the variance request would not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this chapter to owners of other land, structures, or buildings in the same district. No non-conforming use of neighboring land, structures, buildings in the same district, and no permitted use of land, structures, or buildings in other districts shall be considered grounds for the issuance of the variance.
Thank you, Mr. Hampton.
You're welcome.
Anyone else would like to speak on behalf of the 807 Banner Avenue variance tonight? In the public hearing portion? Step to the podium, state your name, Mrs.
I'm Connie Vitt, and I'm the owner of the property and requesting the variance. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. It's the only place possible to put a fence to give my granddaughter enough area for play equipment and her still run and play because of how the house is situated on the property.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else speak on behalf of that tonight? Sir, state your name.
Good evening, everyone. This is Jeff Paulus. I live with the residents. We have our 3-year-old in the side yard. I grew up playing in this neighborhood. I know it's a really safe neighborhood. We want to continue living in the neighborhood and everything, and I just think the fence would offer a little more protection from the road right there. I don't take my daughter out of my sights ever. We're playing outside. I wouldn't do that with the fence there. But just that added safety gives us a comfort to play outside and give us a little more privacy. So, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. Anyone else speak tonight? Hearing none, we'll close our public hearing and open up the regular meeting for the Board of Adjustment meeting. And our last meeting was in January, so we'll hear the minutes from January the 8th. If anybody has any questions or comments.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting of January 8th as submitted.
Second.
Got the motion by Mr. Costello, second by Mr. Dickey to approve the minutes as submitted. Any questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Scott?
Abstain, I was absent.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
And Mr. Deitch?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0 with one abstention. Next order of business will be our variance that we just heard the public hearing on, 807 Banner Avenue. Open up the floor for questions or comments.
The picture that's shown on that we got in the packet, it shows the lot line. How far from the lot line closest to the road would the fence be? The lot line is off of the road. I'm kind of, so is the fence would be even with where the fence comes out behind it?
On the side facing McKinley, and I just used my measuring wheel. There was no survey involved. I got permission from county to run over and take some pictures and did some rough measurements. Basically, from the corner of the carport to the edge of the pavement is 42 feet. And the fence would need to be a minimum of 27 feet. So that would leave 15 feet off their carport, which would be inside of their actual property line.
Okay, but that's not where they're wanting to put it, right?
No, I think the fence that's there
If you step
now, I
to,
found.
you'll need to step up to the
I'm
podium,
sorry.
so the public can hear you.
I found the survey rod, and the fence that's there now is inside of that at the property line. That's roughly 12 feet, I think we measured, from the road. And there's 2 trees that's sort of in line with the end of that. So I would want to put the fence, the house side, inside those 2 trees, which would be maybe 14 feet from the street.
Okay, but the lot line is 12 feet in, right?
Approximately, I would say yes. That's
Okay.
probably a 50-foot wide street right away. So-
Okay. And there's no requirements for easements on the lot line on this because it's in one of the older lots? Isn't there an easement on new lots all the way around the lot?
Well, from her property line out would be the street right away.
Okay.
I don't have a copy of her plat. But
So
there was-
the
but
variance.
she could still put a fence up along an easement. All backyards that have easements.
Okay, but the variance then is for,
To be closer than the 27 feet that's required per. I got it there.
27 feet to the house?
from
No,
the
per
street.
section 420.090 fence regulations in the R1, R2, R3 residential districts, RC1 and RC2 residential commercial plan districts. On a corner lot, the fence shall not extend beyond the established front building line, nor shall any fence extend beyond the interior side lot line and rear lot lines. No fence shall be located in the street right away. On the exterior lot line, a fence shall not be any nearer than 27 feet from the street curb or gutter. So that would force it to be inside of the individual's property lines. And the very last page, I don't know if you saw, but
This is what he got, he read this highlight.
went over with Chief Hydashell, and we did a typical site distance triangle, and he used that formula to come up with his information that he provided to you in his memorandum.
so how many feet is it from the side of the road to the side of the house?
Roughly 42. And if you subtract the minimum 27, that would put it 15 feet off her carport.
The trees are 15 feet off the carport then?
No, from her carport to the edge of the pavement's 42 feet.
Okay.
The fence needs to be a minimum of 27 feet from the edge of the pavement. That would make it 15 feet off the edge of her carport
Okay.
to meet code. She's asking for a variance to have it further towards the street. Correct, Connie?
That's correct, and that would give me 26 feet, I think, is what I roughly measured from the carport to where the fence would be. So
Okay,
it
so
would be
you're
a lot of
looking-
added green space for,
You're looking for a variance of 11 feet,
okay.
right? I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
trying to get some math here.
And the children? How?
3.
3. Yeah.
Brandy pulled up the picture big, if that'd be helpful to you guys.
I have the picture. I was just trying to figure out how much, I mean, you can ask for a variance of a foot, or you can ask for a variance of 27 feet. I was just trying to figure out what exactly variance-wise she was asking for. And that lines up then
Between
with,
those.
right, but does it line up at the end of that fence that comes?
It'd be
inside the fence that comes?
yes, it'd be inside the fence that's run across the back of the property for probably 30 years or more.
Okay.
I can kind of see the effort here to gauge how much of a deviation from code is being asked for. And, you know, on the one hand, I look at this as, you know, a matter of, do you want to try to do something that's reasonable? And, you know, we're talking about something that is potentially in the interest of kids and safety and things of that nature. But on the other hand, I think these details are really almost outside of being relevant. The question that we always look at on variance requests, or the questions, are the 5 criteria, whether the request meets the 5 specific criteria, that all of which must be true for us to grant a variance. In my time on planning and zoning and board of adjustment, we've had 2 instances I can recall requesting fence variances, one of which was virtually identical to this one. And that was in, I believe it's Walnut Grove subdivision, up off of Highway AA. And it was very similar in nature, and the conversation was very similar. A side yard was asked to be fenced so that the kids could play there. I want kids to have a great place to play, but the fact of the matter is, our setbacks are what they are. And we chose not to grant that variance because those setbacks existed before the house was ever bought. And I'm assuming that's the case in this instance. So all of these other questions about how far into that setback we need to allow this fence to be put, to me, don't matter much. We have to stick to, in my opinion, the criteria we always look at on variances. And if any of those 5 are not met, I think it's a dangerous thing if we disregard that and grant variances outside what our code says we should.
Are you saying then that one of the 5 was not met?
Well, I'm saying, and typically we don't take questions from the floor.
Sorry,
okay? I'm saying we typically go through those 5 criteria and we answer for ourselves, does it or doesn't it? And then as a commission, as a board of adjustment, we allow that to inform our ultimate decision. Mm-hmm. No, I read all of that.
That's what,
Yeah.
yeah. I was just making sure that's. When I read that, that's what I thought they were attempting to do.
Right. So the applicant did attempt to answer those 5 criteria in the application, and I can appreciate that. It's just a matter of us looking at it and asking whether or not it does fit what the code says.
Can you tell how it shows lines on this? He's got a red line. Chief Huddishell's line for that sight vision, where does that, I can see it on the drawing he has here, but I don't know how it seems to me that it looks like it's on the street side of those trees. Is that correct? Am I looking at this?
It's the
My
way it
eyesight.
appears. He has no actual dimensions in his drawing,
Yeah.
but it appears like it's started going through the one tree and then on the street side of the second tree.
Right.
The tree farthest to the north. That is correct.
So what the chief is saying is that a fence at that point, as they're proposing, would not interfere with traffic.
I think his exact words is it would have to be set back behind his red line on the diagram.
Yeah.
I don't see where it said anything about it interfering with traffic.
What would be with line of sight
Yeah.
for traffic, I would think. So. And we probably need to look at the 5 things and discuss those 5 things. And I do remember the one in Walnut, whatever that is, Hollow or whatever. And it was a similar situation where there was another property behind it facing the other direction, so that that fence then would be in their front yard.
It was a corner lot. That's
Which-
what I remember as
right.
being similar.
Right. So, but I don't know the size of the backyard on that one, and I did drive around and look at corner lots for about the last half hour, and it does seem to have a kind of unusual backyard,
Mhm.
but I'm still kind of concerned about the fact that you're going to be putting a fence in the neighbor's front yard, which is also a code issue, because
Right.
you can't have a fence in the front yard.
Right. So if you see this driveway here, this fence would, because of the setbacks, that fence would effectively block, their view out to the corner. For me, the one criteria that's probably the most clear is that the applicant has to show special conditions exist which are peculiar to the land, and the circumstances would not be applicable to other lands or buildings. And, I mean, there are corner lots all over the place. And that's really, for me to say, well, this corner lot is different in such a remarkable way from all other corner lots that it's reasonable to make the exception, but that we wouldn't see the same need to make an exception for a similar request on some other corner lot. I don't personally find that it raises to that level. And all of you have, your own opinions on each of the 5 criteria, but I can't overcome that one. And I guess the other one, in granting the variance, we would have to answer, does granting the variance confer special privileges, or would not confer special privileges that are denied to others in the same district? And again, every other corner lot is denied this same privilege. So if we grant this variance, in my view, we would be giving a privilege that other corner lots don't enjoy.
Mr. Barton and I have to respond to that.
You want to step to the podium and?
I I'd just like to say that this corner lot, if you can see from the pictures, because of the way the house is situated, there's a very narrow backyard. And I measured roughly from the front fence to the back of the carport was about 14 feet. And in that site going down then, there's steps coming out the back of the carport. There's an air conditioner. And at the other end of the house, there's a deck that comes out and also invades into that space. And so the backyard is very narrow, and the other yards in that neighborhood have the depth where the people can fence it in and have enough room for children to run and play. This particular lot, because of the way the house was situated, does not have that opportunity.
Well, I can recognize that the lot has unique characteristics, but it doesn't change the fact that other corner lot homes, regardless of configuration, are restricted in the same way with respect to setback from the road with fences. And so I'm going to go ahead and, as always, make the motion in the affirmative to recommend approval of the variances requested.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Costello, second by Mr. Dickey to approve the adjustment, the variance request. Any other questions or comments at this time? Roll call vote.
Mr. Deitch?
No.
Mrs. Scott?
No.
Mr. Costello?
No.
Mr. Dickey?
No.
Mr. Barton?
No. The motion fails. 0 yeses and 5 noes.
And I believe we need to address A through E for the findings of facts.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to go through the 5 criteria, right?
Yeah. I got him.
Okay.
Can we read them?
You want to read the first
Yeah.
one?
There you go.
A1 would be, A is special conditions and circumstances exist which are particular to the land structure or building involved and which are not applicable to other land structures or buildings in the same district. Did it meet that requirement?
No.
No, that's the one that's kind of stuck on.
No.
No, okay. B is literal interpretation of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this chapter.
I don't believe it does.
No.
C, special conditions and circumstances do not result from the applicant, actions of the applicant.
So I believe
It does.
D, granting the variance requested would not confer on the applicant any special privileges that is denied by this chapter to owners of other land structures and buildings in the same district.
I don't believe so.
No, sir.
E is non-conforming use of neighboring lands, structures, and buildings in the same district, and no permitted use of land, structures, or building in other districts shall be considered grounds for the issuance of the variance. That's just general knowledge.
Right.
You need a motion to make those official, or is,
Well, I'll have to bring back the findings of facts for next month's meeting, and then you'll approve them.
okay.
At this time, we'll close the Board of Adjustment portion of the meeting and open up the regular planning and zoning meeting for June 4th. And first order of business will be public hearings, which are none this evening. So we'll open up the regular meeting with the minutes from our last meeting, May the 7th.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes of the 7th.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Dickey, second by Mr. Costello to approve the minutes as submitted for the May 7th meeting. Any questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Deitch?
Yes.
Mr. Colon?
Abstain, I was absent.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
And Mr. Dickey?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0 with one abstention. Next order of business will be the Chapter 405 zoning regulations.
This is proposed text amendment ADM 76, creating section 405.286, individual lot multifamily development, which was tabled at last month's meeting. It was tabled to revise paragraph 2, where it's talking about undeveloped multifamily lots. City Attorney Graville revised it where it would say any subdivision conditionally approved for multifamily housing, including duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, approved after the date would be the date that the Board of Aldermen approves this, is ineligible for a conditional use permit for an individual lot multifamily development and cannot be re-subdivided below the applicable minimal lot size as set forth in the city's zoning ordinance. I believe that addressed your concerns about new development. New developments would be directed towards PUDs.
So the outcome in this instance would be that all of those residences that already exist, that through no fault of the individual owners and occupants, are currently not recognized as separate. That it would resolve that issue.
Yeah, it would make all them legal lots. That's
Give
in
all-
paragraph 1.
Right. But it wouldn't obligate the city then to be in that same circumstance.
This would allow only this multifamily lot. The individual multifamily lot procedure would be for the lots that are already platted with the conditional use that are still sitting vacant. So the owner of them properties can still build out what they've got.
Right.
And have legal lots, and then new developments coming into the city would probably be addressed as PUDs.
Right, so any additional plans to do similar type residences, which.
Would come through
that-
P and Z and the
that
board.
part is fine, but they would be properly done in some type of a PUD.
To try to avoid
Right.
running into this
Okay.
problem again in the future.
But the lots that are currently available for duplexes
Would be able to build out.
would be able to build out, but they have to come in individually for a variance on every?
They would need a conditional use permit approval for each lot, yes ma'am.
And they have to do them all separately and pay separately for each conditional use permit? So if I have 6 lots in a development, I'm gonna pay 6 times to come in and divide those out. I can't come in one time and do all 6.
I'm not sure if you could do them
It
individually.
says a
or not.
separate conditional use permit to develop a
For each lot,
multifamily
yes.
unit must be submitted for each lot proposed to be developed. So, I guess the question is, are we trying to discourage that development? Because it was going to be less expensive for the developer to come in with several of them at one time. They only have to pay the fees one time. They would still have to get conditional uses on each lot. I understand that. I'm just asking if they could do, I think what you're
I
gonna
would
do is
think that-
discourage that development.
I would think that if one developer has, as you said, 6 lots or multiple lots that they want to do at once. If they have all the criteria for each lot, specifically how it's going to be split out, you guys could address that when you're going through the conditional use permit approval.
So you could do multiple,
But I can verify that with the city attorney. Specifically, as it's wrote, it says a conditional use permit for each individual lot, but I don't see why that couldn't be, you know, builder X could say, here's my 5 lots, I want to get a conditional use permit approval to finish out these 5 lots, here's exactly what's going on them, and here's how they're going to be split. So I think it would be workable.
I think our interest would be one public hearing and one publication. and-
Yes, like you said, to help encourage getting the lots built out.
Right.
I can sure verify it and make sure I have the exact answer for the Board of Aldermen when it's
And one
presented to
fee,
them.
and one fee for the 5? Or are we talking about 5 fees?
I believe if he's doing it at the same time, it would be one fee.
One
If he
fee.
comes in once a month or once a year, then he'd pay each time.
right, and that makes sense. I'm just, if you're, like I said, if you're trying to encourage these lots to be built out, then the more economically feasible you can make it, the better.
Am I reading this wrong, that there is a paragraph 1, a paragraph 2, and another paragraph 2?
Yes.
Looks like Mr. Graville's got a 2 and a 2. Yes, sir. We'll have that corrected before it's presented before the board, too. That's somewhat embarrassing.
No, that's just how it happens. Trust me.
Yeah.
Cut and paste.
And once you get down, and once you get down there and you try to fix that, then it screws everything up.
And then,
So
yeah.
it's just easier to leave it, and but people don't hear
Some of
why
this
they-
stuff,
You don't
when
write
we were
anything
trying
out
to put it
anymore.
together, trust me, it makes you cross-eyed.
Yeah. Good catch.
Is there some way to indicate in here that if a developer or builder comes in with 5 or 6 of these at one time, that there will just be one fee?
We can
We're
sure-
kind of in agreement, I think.
We
up
can
here
sure
tonight.
revise that, so
To
it's
say
part
it's
of what's
worth-
presented to the board.
But, you know, down the road, there'll be different people here, and I agree with Teresa, we're trying to encourage people, not
Because
discourage.
part of my packet that goes to the board is whether or not you approve this, and then if you have any conditions or recommendations, so we'll make that one of the conditions, that if an applicant submits multiple lots at the same time, they pay the one fee, as long as they meet all the requirements of the application.
And they still have like 180 days, I think it is,
Yeah,
to.
6 months to build them out.
Yeah, so, I mean, they need to be, they're going to be doing something with them, or they're not gonna
Be spending their money on it.
spend the money.
That would be easy to add.
Very good. So what do you need for us to do tonight for this?
Either vote in favor or against. So I
Okay,
have-
so that's what we're doing tonight. This
Yes,
is
sir.
the one that we tabled, and we're gonna vote on it tonight.
Yes, sir.
Entertain a motion?
I make a motion to approve the ordinance as submitted with the stipulation that if multiple units are brought up, that's under one fee structure.
By the same applicant,
By the
correct?
same applicant, yeah. At the same time.
And I'll second that.
I have a motion by Mrs. Scott, second by Mr. Deach, to approve it as submitted with the addition of one fee at the same time by the same applicant. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote?
Mr. Deach?
Yes.
Mr. Cullen?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0 with 4 absent. Next order of business will be Appendix A.
This is a proposed text amendment to Appendix A. This item was also tabled at last month's meeting. The proposed section 405.286 will require revisions to existing Appendix A. I've got in your packet the proposed, our existing Appendix A with the proposed changes shown in red, and it's just basically making the individual lot multifamily development a conditional use in all districts that allow multifamily.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the amendment to Appendix A, adding the conditional use as indicated for R3, RC1, RC2, RC1, C2, and C3.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Costello, second by Mrs. Scott to approve it as submitted with the conditional use additions as a picture in red in our packet. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Deitch?
Yes.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes, motion passes 6-0 with 4 absent. And that'll close the meeting and turn it over to Mr. Hemp for any comments.
Just let you know of two things coming on for sure for next month's meeting. There's application for a project up across from the fairgrounds called Fairgrounds Villas, a multi-unit complex, and also a light automotive service tire store. I submitted an application for approval.
And what day are we meeting?
I believe it's July 2nd,
Okay.
first Thursday of the month.
I wasn't sure if it was affected by the holiday weekend or anything.
The
Depends on where you're gonna take it earlier or not.
We could meet at 5 o'clock if it's more convenient for you guys to get ready for the weekend.
I'm available.
I'm not sure if I'm gonna be here either way, so.
It wouldn't hurt our feelings, would it, Brandy?
I wouldn't mind if you passed that idea along.
That's not a problem to me.
It's up to you guys to approve it. There's nothing set in stone that we have to meet at 7. 5:30, 6?
If, you know, as long as we're talking about it, if, you know, we need to know what the members that aren't present feel
Yeah.
about it, but if that gets more of us here than otherwise.
Something to consider.
I
We
would
can always
be
revise
open
our
to that.
time.
Have them send out an email maybe and check.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brandy,
And as long as
Brandy,
the
can you
applicants,
send out
as long as
a?
the applicants know ahead of time, right?
Yeah, well, for July, I've already got the public hearings to be run in the paper next Thursday, but if we revise our starting time, we could sure make everybody aware of that.
Is that a problem, having an earlier time for a public hearing? Is that a problem for people?
I don't see why.
Talking about changing it from 7 to 6. Because he said 5, and I know that people will be with their families and dinner and things of that nature, but 6 might be appropriate for someone coming in.
And historically, we very seldom get response from the public. But
Yeah, I may have a problem with that. I just have to check the calendar for July. That's a ways off.
Kind of send out you can send out an email and just
see
check
if
with everybody and
Anybody
see.
be interested in it?
Well, if no one else has anything for the group, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Deitch, second by Mrs. Scott. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thanks for coming out. Good night.